You've seen the claims. This penny is worth $1 million. This quarter can make you rich overnight. But is it true? The truth is, most of it is completely fake. Exaggerated prices, misleading hype. That's what we're here to expose. Welcome to Rare Coin Collecting.
In 2008, the U.S. Mint released the Alaska State Quarter, one of the final designs in the legendary 50 State Quarters program. The artwork is unforgettable. A massive grizzly bear with jaws open, catching a salmon right out of a rushing river. Above the scene, the words, "The Great Land," remind us of Alaska's rugged wilderness and its proud nickname. Now, most people know the Alaska Quarter from everyday circulation, where hundreds of millions were struck at Philadelphia and Denver. But today we're not talking about those common business strikes. We're focusing on the special proof edition from the San Francisco Mint, the 2008 Alaska Clad Proof Quarter. So what exactly is a clad proof quarter? Unlike the silver proofs, which are struck on 90% silver planchets, the clad proofs are made of the same copper-nickel composition as circulation coins. But here's the difference. They're struck with special polished dies on carefully prepared planchets, and usually struck twice. This process creates razor-sharp details, mirror-like fields and frosted devices. The result? A coin with a dramatic cameo effect that collectors love. The Alaska Clad Proofs were never intended for circulation. Instead, they were sold in proof sets directly to collectors. In 2008, just over 2 million Alaska Clad Proofs were minted. That might sound like a lot, but compared to the hundreds of millions of regular circulation strikes, it's actually a very limited number. And when you consider that many proof sets were broken up over the years, finding a high-quality Alaska Clad Proof becomes even more rewarding. Let's talk about the numbers because that's what collectors always want to know. A typical raw Alaska Clad Proof sells for $3 to $10. In PR69 Deep Cameo, the most common high grade, you'll see prices around $20 to $40. But in the perfect grade PR70 Deep Cameo, the story changes. These coins can bring $150 to $300 at auction, depending on demand. And yes, even clad proofs can have rare errors. Imagine spotting a double die on the inscriptions, or missing frosting on the bear's fur. These unusual mistakes can catapult a coin's value into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. A rare proof error paired with a PR70 grade could be the kind of find that turns a $10 coin into a treasure worth $1,000 or more. Now let's step back for a second and look at why collectors prize the Alaska Clad Proof in the first place. It's not just about the minting quality, it's about the design and the timing. Remember, Alaska's quarter came out in 2008, the very last year of the 50 State Quarters program. Collectors were determined to finish their sets, and Alaska was a must-have. The bold grizzly design also gives it crossover appeal, attracting not just numismatists but also nature lovers, outdoorsmen, and people with a personal connection to Alaska. That extra demand means prices for top-graded examples have remained strong. Here's a quick story that illustrates this. In 2019, an Alaska Clad Proof graded PR70 Deep Cameo by PCGS sold for nearly $250. Just a few years later, another one crossed the auction block for over $300. That kind of appreciation shows that even clad proofs, which some dismiss as less valuable than silver, can hold serious collector interest. So what should you do if you want to add one of these coins to your collection or profit from it? Here are some smart tips. First, always start by checking original 2008 proof sets. That's where these clad proofs came from, and they're often preserved in excellent condition. Second, learn to recognize that deep cameo contrast, sharp frosted devices, against those mirror-like fields. Third, if you think you've got a flawless coin, consider professional grading. A PR70 slabbed by PCGS or NGC will command a premium that's often many times higher than the raw coin price. And don't forget to look closely for varieties or errors, even small doubling on the words "The Great Land" or on the date can boost your coin's value dramatically. Error collectors pay big premiums for unusual proof mistakes. Let's quickly recap the value ranges so you know exactly what to expect. Typical raw clad proof, $3 to $10. PR69 Deep Cameo, $20 to $40. Perfect PR70 Deep Cameo, $50 to $300 or more. Rare proof errors or dramatic varieties, $500 to $1,000 plus. When you think about it, that's pretty amazing. A coin that most people overlook tucked away in a proof set can end up selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars in the right conditions. And remember, the Alaska clad proof is part of history. It's a snapshot of a program that brought millions of new collectors into the hobby. It represents not only the rugged wilderness of the Great Land, but also the excitement of a series that captured the imagination of America. So, the next time you see a gleaming proof quarter with a grizzly catching a salmon, don't dismiss it just because it isn't silver. That clad proof might be hiding in plain sight, waiting to surprise you with its value. Because in coin collecting, every coin tells a story, and sometimes even the humble clad proof can turn out to be a golden, or in this case, a grizzly-style opportunity. In 2008, the U.S. Mint released the Arizona State Quarter, the 48th coin in the wildly successful 50 State Quarters program. And what a design it has. A majestic view of the Grand Canyon, one of the most iconic landscapes in America, framed by a bold saguaro cactus in blossoms. At the bottom, a banner proudly reads Grand Canyon State, reminding everyone of Arizona's official nickname. Now, most people are familiar with the circulation strikes that came from Philadelphia and Denver. But what we're talking about today is something far more special, the 2008 Arizona Clad Proof Quarter. So what makes this coin different? Unlike circulation strikes, the proof quarters were made at the San Francisco Mint using special polished dies and carefully prepared planchets. Each coin was struck at least twice to ensure razor-sharp details, deep mirrored fields, and frosted designs. This gives the Arizona proof quarter that famous cameo effect, the contrast that collectors absolutely love. The 2008 S-clad proofs were never meant for pocket change. Instead, they were sold directly to collectors in U.S. Mint proof sets. Just over 2 million clad proofs of Arizona were produced. Compared to the hundreds of millions of circulation coins, that number is very small. And over time, many proof sets have been broken up, damaged, or mishandled, making pristine examples much harder to find. Now let's talk about values, but later, because that's where things get interesting. A typical raw Arizona clad proof might sell for $2 to $8 if it's been handled or lightly marked. In PR69 Deep Cameo, which is the grade most collectors aim for, you're looking at $20 to $35. But if you manage to secure a flawless PR70 Deep Cameo, that's where the real jump happens. These coins can sell anywhere from $150 to $300, depending on the auction and the grading service. And yes, even clad proofs can carry surprise errors and varieties. Imagine spotting a double die on the inscriptions, or frosted devices missing from the cactus. These types of proof errors are rare, but when they appear, collectors go wild. A dramatic error combined with a perfect PR70 grade could turn a clad proof into a $500 or even $1,000 coin. What's also fascinating about the Arizona proof is its design itself. That massive saguaro cactus, which stretches across the Grand Canyon backdrop, became somewhat controversial. The Mint actually had to modify the artwork before release, because early designs looked like the cactus was growing out of the canyon. The final result is what we see today, a bold and balanced tribute to Arizona's natural beauty. That little backstory gives the coin added appeal, especially for state history fans. Here's a real-world example. In 2020, an Arizona clad proof graded PR70 Deep Cameo by PCGS sold for $240 at auction. A year later, another perfect example brought nearly $300, and yet raw proofs can still be found for under $10 in broken-up proof sets. That kind of price gap is exactly why collectors hunt for PR70s. The potential return is massive. So how do you find these coins? The best place to start is with original 2008 proof sets. These often contain both the clad and silver versions, and many times the coins are still in beautiful condition. Always look for sharp frosting on the cactus and the Grand Canyon detail, and make sure the mirrored fields are free from haze or scratches. If your coin looks flawless, consider sending it in for grading. Remember, PR70 is tough, but not impossible. And with values pushing into the hundreds, the effort can absolutely pay off. Let's recap the value ranges one more time. Raw clad proof, $2 to $8. PR69 Deep Cameo, $20 to $35. PR70 Deep Cameo, $150 to $300 or more. Rare errors or varieties, $500 to $1,000, and don't forget the historical angle. The Arizona quarter came out during the very last year of the state quarters program. By then, millions of Americans had gotten hooked on collecting, and demand for proofs was at an all-time high. That timing gives the 2008 issues a special place in numismatic history. So the next time you're browsing through a proof set or see an Arizona quarter with that unmistakable shine, take a closer look. It might just be one of those coins that goes beyond being a beautiful piece of art. It could also be a serious treasure. Because in coin collecting, it's not always about gold or silver. Sometimes even a clad proof and with the right grade, the right error, and the right buyer can deliver Grand Canyon-sized value. In 2008, the U.S. Mint released one of the most visually striking coins of the entire state quarters program, the Alaska Quarter. This was the 49th coin in the series, and as you can imagine, it carried a lot of excitement. After all, Alaska had only become a state in 1959, so for many collectors, this design was a proud reminder of America's northern frontier. The reverse of the Alaska Quarter is bold and powerful. It shows a massive grizzly bear emerging from the waters of a rushing stream, clutching a salmon in its jaws. Surrounding it are inscriptions of the word Alaska, the statehood date of 1959, and the U.S. motto, the Great Land. The design celebrates Alaska's rugged wilderness, its wildlife, and its reputation as one of the last truly untamed regions of America. Now, the coin we're focusing on today is the 2008 D Alaska Quarter, struck at the Denver Mint. The Denver issues can be recognized by the small D mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. Mintage numbers for this coin were substantial. The Denver Mint struck 251.8 million Alaska quarters in 2008. On the surface, that sounds like a lot, and it is but when you compare it to other quarters in the program, Alaska's mintage was actually on the lower side, which makes it more collectible. So what does that mean for value? Let's break it down. In circulated condition, most Alaska D quarters are only worth face value, 25 cents. You'll find them in pocket change, in rolls, and in bags with little trouble. In uncirculated condition, the story changes. Brilliant untouched coins can sell for $1 to $5 depending on grade. Once you reach mint state 65 or higher, prices climb. At MS66, these can bring $50 to $25. In MS67, they become genuinely scarce. Prices here jump to $150 to $250. And at MS68, which is almost the top of the grading scale, the Alaska D becomes a true modern rarity. Auction prices have pushed as high as $500 to $2,000 for these near-perfect examples. But the Alaska Quarter isn't just about high grades. Collectors also look for errors and varieties. And in 2008, the U.S. Mint had its share of mistakes. Some Alaska D quarters have been discovered with dramatic die breaks, off-center strikes, or missing clad layers. And those kinds of errors can easily fetch $200 to $500 or more, depending on severity. Imagine finding an Alaska quarter where the grizzly looks doubled, or where the salmon is slightly misplaced due to a strike error. Those coins get snapped up quickly by error specialists. One auction highlight worth mentioning, and in 2010, a stunning 2008 D Alaska quarter graded MS68 by PCGS sold for just over $1,900. Since then, additional high-grade examples have surfaced, but they remain few and far between. For context, out of the millions minted, only a tiny handful have ever graded that high. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Because Alaska was one of the final coins released in the State Quarter series, collector demand was already at a fever pitch. People who had been collecting since 1999 didn't want to stop so close to the end. That means millions of collectors went out of their way to save these coins right from circulation. As a result, rolls and bags of Alaska quarters were hoarded in huge numbers. Today, sealed rolls from the Denver Mint can sell for $15 to $25, while original 100 coin bags can bring $60 to $100 or more. So what should you look for if you want to add a valuable Alaska D quarter to your collection? First, focus on condition. You want coins with strong luster, no major contact marks, and sharp strikes. Next, watch out for errors, especially missing clad layers, which reveal the copper core underneath. And finally, consider having your best examples graded by PCGS or NGC. High grades are where the real money is. Let's recap the values for the 2008 D Alaska quarter. Circulated 25 cents. Uncirculated MS63, MS65 $1 to 25, MS67 $150 to 250, FAS68 $2,500 to 2,000 plus. Errors and varieties $200 to 500 plus. When you add it all up, the Alaska quarter is a modern coin that proves not all pocket change is created equal. While most are still worth just face value, the very best survivors can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So the next time you come across an Alaska quarter with that proud grizzly and salmon design, take a closer look. Because what might appear to be an ordinary 25-cent piece could, in the right condition, be a true treasure from the great land. In 2008, the U.S. Mint released the Alaska quarter, the 49th coin in the legendary State Quarters program. This design instantly stood out. It wasn't just another state outline or landmark. Instead, it captured the raw spirit of America's last frontier. A powerful grizzly bear, standing in a rushing stream, salmon clutched in its jaws, bold, wild, and untamed, and this design perfectly symbolized Alaska's nickname, the Great Land. Now today we're focusing on the Philadelphia Mint version and the 2008 P Alaska quarter. These coins carry a small P mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. And while they might look like ordinary pocket change, certain examples can be worth serious money. First, let's talk about mintage. The Philadelphia Mint produced 251.8 million Alaska quarters. Yes, that's a huge number. But in the world of state quarters, it's actually mid-range. Some earlier quarters saw mintages of over 500 million, while others were significantly lower. That means the Alaska P isn't rare in circulation, but condition and varieties make all the difference. So what about value? In circulated condition, these are generally only worth face value, 25 cents. If you find one in your change, most likely it's just a regular spender. In uncirculated grades, things start to get interesting. An MS63 example might fetch $1 to $3, while MS65 pieces can climb to $10 to $20. At MS66, these become far scarcer, with prices in the $50 to $100 range. And then there's the true gem, MS67 and above. These are incredibly tough to find because of how easily quarters pick up scratches and nicks during minting and transport. An MS67 Alaska P can sell for $400 to $700. At the top, MS68 examples are the holy grail. Only a tiny number have been graded that high. And when they show up at auction, prices have reached $3,000 to $5,000 or more. Now here's where it gets even better. Error coins. The Alaska quarter is known for a handful of striking errors that can make them worth hundreds. Some examples include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing. Those can bring $200 to $400. Missing clad layer errors, which reveal the copper core beneath the nickel surface, often worth $300 to $600, and some wild strike-through errors where grease or debris blocked part of the design. Those quirky coins have sold for $100 to $200, and of course let's not forget die varieties. While the Alaska P quarter isn't famous for a major double die, collectors are always on the hunt for minor hub doubling or repunched mint marks. Even small varieties can bring premiums if authenticated. So how do you maximize your chances of finding a valuable Alaska P? The key is condition. You'll want to check rolls, bags, or even uncirculated mint sets. Coins that went straight from the mint to a collector's set have the best chance of surviving without scratches. Another tip, look for strong luster under a light. Coins with brilliant frosty surfaces are more likely to grade high. Let's talk about auction highlights. One of the most eye-catching sales was a PCGS MS68 Alaska P quarter that hammered for over $5,000. Imagine that a coin that cost 25 cents in 2008, now worth thousands just because of its pristine condition. Another auction saw a missing clad layer. Error sell for nearly $700, proving that even flawed coins can become treasures. And here's the bigger picture. By 2008, the state quarters program was coming to a close. Collectors who had been saving since 1999 weren't about to stop now. The Alaska design was one of the final 5 before Hawaii closed out the series. That means demand for Alaska quarters was intense. Many people put away rolls, bags, and sets, hoping they'd rise in value over time. And for high-grade examples, that bet paid off. Let's quickly recap values for the 2008 Alaska quarter. Circulated 25 cents. Uncirculated MS63, MS65, $1 to $20. MS66, $50 to $100. MS67, $400 to $700. MS68, $3,000 to $5,000 plus. Errors and varieties, $100 to $600 plus. So the next time you spot that bold grizzly and salmon design in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Because while most Alaska P quarters are worth just face value, the right one in the right condition could be worth hundreds or even thousands. And that's the beauty of coin. Collecting hidden treasures can be waiting in your pocket change. So how do you maximize your chances of finding a valuable Alaska P? The key is condition. You'll want to check rolls, bags, or even uncirculated mint sets. Coins that went straight from the mint to a collector's set have the best chance of surviving without scratches. Another tip, look for strong luster under a light. Coins with brilliant frosty surfaces are more likely to grade high. Let's talk about auction highlights. One of the most eye-catching sales was a PCGS MS68 Alaska P quarter that hammered for over $5,000. Imagine that a coin that cost 25 cents in 2008, now worth thousands just because of its pristine condition. Another auction saw a missing clad layer. Error sell for nearly $700, proving that even flawed coins can become treasures. And here's the bigger picture. By 2008, the state quarters program was coming to a close. Collectors who had been saving since 1999 weren't about to stop now. The Alaska design was one of the final 5 before Hawaii closed out the series. That means demand for Alaska quarters was intense. Many people put away rolls, bags, and sets, hoping they'd rise in value over time. And for high-grade examples, that bet paid off. Let's quickly recap values for the 2008 Alaska quarter. Circulated 25 cents. Uncirculated MS63, MS65, $1 to $20. MS66, $50 to $100. MS67, $400 to $700. MS68, $3,000 to $5,000 plus. Errors and varieties, $100 to $600 plus. So the next time you spot that bold grizzly and salmon design in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Because while most Alaska P quarters are worth just face value, the right one in the right condition could be worth hundreds or even thousands. And that's the beauty of coin. Collecting hidden treasures can be waiting in your pocket change. In 2008, the U.S. Mint wrapped up one of the most successful coin programs in American history, the State Quarters series. For nearly a decade, collectors and everyday people alike hunted through their pocket change, hoping to find all 50 designs. And the very last one to be released on the grand finale was the Hawaii quarter. This coin wasn't just another design. It marked the end of a journey that started in 1999, celebrating every state in the Union, and Hawaii, the 50th state, was the perfect closing chapter. The design features King Kamehameha, one of the most important figures in Hawaiian history. He's shown extending his hand toward the islands of Hawaii, with the state motto written in Hawaiian, Buv Wamauki Iauka Aina Kapono. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Now today we're focusing on the Denver Mint version of this coin, the 2008 D Hawaii quarter. You can spot the tiny D mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of George Washington's ponytail. Let's start with the basics. The Denver Mint struck a whopping 263.6 million Hawaii quarters. That sounds huge, and it is, yeah. But remember, this was the very last state quarter. Collectors across America and beyond were saving these in rolls, bags, and albums. So while the mintage is high, demand has always been just as strong. So what about values? In circulated condition, most Hawaii D quarters are worth their face value of 25 cents. Millions were released into everyday use. In uncirculated condition, values climb. At MS63, expect around $2 to $5. At MS65, prices jump into the $15 to $30 range. At MS66, these coins start to get truly desirable, with prices ranging from $75 to $150. And in MS67, things get serious. These are extremely tough to find, with sales in the $400 to $800 range. The top grades, MS68 and above, are incredibly rare. Only a handful of Hawaii D quarters have ever been certified that high. And when they do show up, prices can soar past $5,000 to $7,000. And that's not even mentioning the errors. Yes, even Hawaii quarters have produced some spectacular mistakes that can bring hundreds of dollars. Collectors have documented off-center strikes worth between $200 and $400, depending on how dramatic they are. Clipped planches, where a piece of the coin blank was missing before striking, often bringing $150 to $300, and struck through errors, where debris or grease interfered with the design. Those quirky coins can be worth $100 to $250. There's also something special about this being the last quarter in the series. Collectors who wanted complete statehood quarter sets simply had to have the Hawaii coin. That constant demand has given the Hawaii D quarter an edge in the marketplace. Even today, rolls and bags of uncirculated examples sell at a premium compared to other states. Now let's talk about auctions. One of the standout sales was a PCGS MS68 Hawaii D quarter that hammered for nearly $7,000. Just imagine that. A coin minted in the hundreds of millions, but one of the few survivors in near-perfect condition, selling for more than some gold coins. Another highlight included an MS67 Plus that sold for just under $1,000, and error coins, especially dramatic off-centers, have sold for $500 or more. Let's pause for a moment. Think about this. The Hawaii D quarter started its life as a simple 25-cent piece. Most people spent it without thinking twice. But for collectors who recognized its importance, and for those who found pristine examples, it became a serious treasure. That's the magic of numismatics. Here's a quick recap of values for the 2008 D Hawaii quarter. Circulated 25 cents, MS63, MS65, $2 to $30, MS66, $75 to $150, MS67, $400 to $800, MS68, $5,000 to $7,000 plus. Errors, $100 to $500 plus. So if you ever come across a Hawaii D quarter, don't let it slip through your fingers. Check for condition, check for errors, and most importantly, remember that this coin represents the end of one of the most popular coin programs in U.S. history. Because in the world of coins, it's not always about how many were made, it's about how many survived in the right condition, and the Hawaii D quarter proves that even modern coins can be worth thousands. In 2008, coin collectors across the United States were buzzing with excitement. Why? Because the U.S. Mint was about to release the very last coin in the legendary state quarter program. After nearly a decade of chasing designs from Delaware all the way through Alaska, the journey came to an end with the Hawaii quarter. Now, this wasn't just another release. This was history in the making. Hawaii, the 50th state admitted into the Union, closed the series with a powerful design featuring King Kamehameha I, the unifier of the Hawaiian Islands. His extended hand points toward the islands themselves, while the state motto arches above in Hawaiian, Uamoke Iaoka Ainai Kaponu. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Today we're zooming in on the Philadelphia Mint issue, the 2008 P Hawaii quarter. Look closely at the obverse, and you'll see the small P mint mark, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. So how many were made? The Philadelphia Mint struck 254.0 million Hawaii quarters. That's a massive number. But just like the Denver issue, demand has always been high. Collectors hoarded these by the roll in the bag, knowing this was the finale of one of the most beloved U.S. coin programs ever created. Now let's break down the values. In circulated condition, these coins are usually worth only face value, 25 cents. You'll still find them in change today. But in uncirculated condition, things get interesting. At MS63, expect around $2 to $4 At MS65, prices jump to about $15 to $30. MS66 examples start bringing in $75 to $150. And MS67 coins, that's where it gets serious. Prices typically range from $400 to $1,000. But at the very top, MS68 Hawaii P quarters are virtually unicorns. Only a tiny handful have been certified. And when one shows up at auction, it can bring $6,000 to $8,000 or more. Yes, you heard that right. A modern 25-cent piece, struck in the hundreds of millions, selling for thousands of dollars because of its perfect condition. Now let's talk about errors. Just like the Denver issue, the Philadelphia Mint saw its share of striking mistakes on these Hawaii quarters. Collectors have discovered off-center strikes that can be worth anywhere, from $150 to $400, depending on how much of the design is missing. Clipped planches that often bring in $100 to $250, and struck through errors, where grease or debris left odd marks on the coin, which can sell for $75 to $200. There's also something special about these errors. Because Hawaii was the last state quarter, many collectors were already watching closely, saving rolls and inspecting coins. That means dramatic errors from Hawaii sometimes attract even more attention than errors from earlier states. Let's bring in some auction highlights. One of the most famous sales was a PCGS MS68 Hawaii P quarter, which sold for around $7,500. Another MS67 Plus example brought nearly $1,200, and off-center errors have fetched more than $500. Here's a key point. Most Hawaii quarters will never be worth more than 25 cents, but the select few that survived in pristine condition or that came out of the mint with rare errors have become treasures worth thousands. And the story behind this coin adds to the appeal. The Hawaii quarter wasn't just the end of the program, it was also symbolic. It represented America's most recent state, a place far from the mainland, with a unique culture and history. Ending the series with Hawaii felt fitting, like the last piece of a puzzle finally being placed. So let's do a quick recap of values for the 2008 P Hawaii quarter. Circulated 25 cents, MS63, MS65, $2 to $30, MS66, $75 to $150, 60s from $400 to $1,000, MS68, $6,000 to $8,000 plus. Errors, $100 to $500 plus. Now here's a tip if you're a collector. Check bankrolls and old coin jars. Believe it or not, Hawaii quarters still pop up in circulation. Even in 2025, most will be worn, but once in a while you might find a sharp, lustrous example that could be worth sending in for grading. And don't forget to inspect for errors. An off-center strike or a clipped planche could be hiding in plain sight. So next time you spot a Hawaii P quarter, take a closer look, because what started as a simple 25-cent piece might just turn into a coin worth thousands. And beyond the price tag, it's a piece of U.S. history, the closing chapter of the Statehood Quarter series. Remember, in coin collecting, it's not about how many were minted. It's about condition, rarity, and demand. And the 2008 P Hawaii quarter proves that even a modern coin in your pocket change could hold hidden gold.